back to a fresh new vlog today. I am Donald, also known as Piyash, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my story, my experience of the Bhutan trip that we took. And if you have some suggestions on some changes that I can make in my room, you can always mention it down in the comment section. That will really help me improve the quality of this video. Thank you, bye. And before we begin, I also want to let you know that this trip was taken in 2017. You may ask me why I haven't uploaded for all these years, and the simple reason is that I wasn't comfortable with showing my face on the camera, plus editing some of it because I wasn't that good in it. I'm still not good, but then I'm just experimenting with myself each and every day. And since it's lockdown and everything going around, I thought why not make the best use of time and share my experience with you all. So before we begin with this video, hit the like button, click on subscribe, and also ring the notification bell so that you can keep yourself updated with all the upcoming videos. Hush. This trip was planned randomly. We were out trekking and camping in Cherrapunji, also locally known as Sora, and we suddenly came up with the plan that yes, we should take a motorcycle trip to Bhutan. We were really hesitant at first because none of us had ever rode that distance before, and as motorcyclists, we thought, yeah, we should experience that once in our lifetime. The ride consisted of 4 people. There was my cousin Roy, my friend Dipankar, Rashdeep, and of course me. So the day before the actual ride, my friend Rashdeep and I, we moved out from Shillong and rode towards Guwahati, where we planned to stay at Dipankar's place. The plan was that we would move out the next day all together, and our destination for the next day would be Dipankar's hometown, which is in Kokrajhar. So the very next day, all 4 of us rode out. I was on my CBR 250, Rashdeep was on his KTM RC200, Dipankar was on his R15, and my cousin Roy, he took his Activa scooty 110cc. Yeah, he actually took a scooty to Bhutan. So it was mostly a sunny day, except for the bits of rain that we found around the Nalbari and Borbeta areas. So for day 1, our plan was to stop by at a hotel in Bongaigaon for our lunch, and then we could finally head out to Kokrajhar. So once we reached Bongaigaon, we made our stop at a hotel/restaurant called the Himalaya Hotel. Not being sponsored by them, I wish I was, but then the food is absolutely amazing. If you ever happen to cross by Bongaigaon, you must make a stop at that hotel because the food is amazing and you're gonna love it. Since we took this ride in the month of August, you could say it was like midsummer. The weather was so hot, and by the time we reached Kokrajhar in the evening, we passed out as soon as we got there. We spent the night in Kokrajhar. It is a very small town, but it is definitely very welcoming. During our stay there, we also met with Dipankar's beautiful fur baby. As you can see on the picture, her name is Nani. And she was so excited to see us when we arrived at her house. She was literally jumping and then getting on me, on Dipankar, on my cousin Roy. We just played the whole entire night with her. So the very next day we made our way to Gosaigao, and after a while we finally reached Srirampur, which is the border of West Bengal. Now, after entering West Bengal, we had to be very careful with our riding style because every state has its own laws and we didn't want to get pulled over or get a fine imposed on us. After riding for a while, we finally reached Alipurdwar and came across the famous Baksa Wildlife Sanctuary. Now I was expecting to see some animals on the side of the road, but we didn't have any luck. Instead, we came across a good amount of migratory birds. Now, before we head on any further into the video, I want to let you all know a very important tip, especially to all the travelers out there, that you should always download the offline version of the maps that you have with you, because sometimes your internet connection is going to be slow and then they're not going to show you the correct location. The same way, they did not show us that we already reached Hasimara in the maps, and then we crossed it and headed straight for Siliguri because there were no signs on the road that you had to take a right turn towards Jaigao in Hasimara. So yeah, we spent like 1 hour going and coming back the same road, and I don't want you to make the same mistake.
As you can see, this amazing view of Bhutan.
And finally we reached Jaigao. Jaigao is basically the Indian side of the border, and Phuntsling is like the Bhutan side of the border.
Yo, immigration ka office kahan cha? Immigration ka office kahan cha? Yeah, bara right. Thank you. I'm already inside Bhutan, bro.
So the rule is, before you enter Bhutan, you always pre-book your hotel or your stay in Bhutan, because there will be agencies and brokers in the borders that are gonna help you, of course, to find a good place, but they will also be charging you a whole lot of money. And mind you, these people are not Bhutanese, these people are actually Indians, and when they see tourists like us who don't have much ideas about the rules and regulations, they will try to come and squeeze as much money as they can from you. And now that is not a good thing. Anyway, we made that mistake and we hired one of these brokers to do the paperwork for us, especially in the embassy with the visas and everything. So in the embassy, we had to get our visas made. Now the visas for Indian citizens are free, but we had to make permits for our motorcycles. Now the per day fees of each motorcycle at that time was ₹100. I don't know if they have increased the rate, but then that was what the actual price was out there back then. So we booked our motorcycles for 5 days. We paid 500 rupees per motorcycle. But the sad thing that happened was that my cousin Roy, he was not allowed to take his Activa up into Bhutan beyond Phuntsling, because they said that there were steep hills and all these water crossings or slushy areas, so a scooty cannot climb those areas. I don't know, maybe it's the rule of their country that gearless two-wheelers are not allowed. So we had to park his scooty in Phuntsling. By the time everything was done, it was already the night time, so we did not want to risk going any further, so we decided on staying the night in Phuntsling. We roamed around Phuntsling that night and then visited all the shops and everything. The one thing that stood out to me the most was their magnificent wine collection. I mean, check these out. Don't they look great to you? By the way, did you know that Bhutan is the first country to achieve the title of being a carbon neutral country? Now, what does carbon neutral mean? Carbon neutral means that there is always a balance between the emission and absorption of carbon from the atmosphere. So you can say that Bhutan is almost pollution free, and I've also heard that by 2030 they want to achieve the title of being the first carbon negative country in the entire world.
The place is cool as you go higher, but we are sweating like hell, man. We are sweating like hell.
Going through that road, we came across all kinds of climatic conditions. We found foggy weather, humid weather, rainy weather, and at some parts like the Gedu and Chuka Pass, it was freezing cold, and despite the liners and the raincoats and everything that we had on, we still couldn't beat the amount of cold that we were feeling. We were also told about this couple a couple of months back before we went there. They were riding through that area and then they were riding quite recklessly. They could not keep their balance in a blind turn and then they rode straight off the cliff. These stories gave me goosebumps right then and there. And then we had to coordinate cautiously as to how we would carry on with the journey because we didn't want any trouble, especially something of that kind. The damp and rainy weather reminded me of my hometown in Shillong. The people of Shillong would probably be able to relate as to how it feels riding in the fog and rain, but trust me, this was totally different. This was on the next level, you know. And at some places the visibility was totally zero. You could not see your own hand in front of your face. As the dusk fell, it became harder because we Indians have the habit of honking, but the people of Bhutan, they don't usually honk unless it's very necessary, which is a good thing, but then there is also a risk because we don't know what's on the next turn, and if there is a truck, sometimes we came across moments where we almost fell off the cliff because the truck just came at like high speed and then we had to like move to the side and let it pass. We finally made it to Paro. We were completely soaked by the time we got there, so we somehow managed to have dinner and immediately passed out. I did not film any part of Paro that night because I was super tired. So the next morning, Roy and Rajdeep were completely worn out from the ride of the previous day, and one of them also caught a cold. So Dipankar and I, we just moved out by ourselves towards a place known as the Paro Taksang, also known as Tiger Monastery. Tiger Monastery was built by Guru Rinpoche. It was first built in 1692 at a cave where he meditated in 7th century AD. Legend states that Guru Rinpoche flew to the site atop the back of a tigress and meditated in the cave for 3 years, 3 months, 3 days and 3 hours in order to subdue evil demons residing within it. How amazing is that? I was reading this from Google because I had to refresh my memory a little bit, and every time I go through this, it really boggles my mind. Like, imagine a monastery on the side of a cliff. How many people would even dare to go and climb a cliff right now? At least build a monastery out there. That is absolutely amazing. Humans are awesome. You guys are awesome. I love you all. We then got back to our hotel in Paro town, ate our breakfast and immediately left for Thimphu because we had really short time in our hands and we had to cover a lot of things in that short period. So yeah, we had to rush a little bit. The roads from Paro to Thimphu were amazing. It gave me the Switzerland vibes. Even though I haven't been to Switzerland, I've seen the pictures. Upon reaching Thimphu, we realized that it was more of a posh town, unlike Paro, which was more like a laid-back countryside. But the nightlife in Thimphu is actually really good. We spent a night in Thimphu and it was finally time for us to return. On the way back, we actually got glimpses of the views that we had previously missed out on. Our ride back was pretty similar like the last time, except this time we didn't stay in the border. We went straight to Kokrajhar from Thimphu and then stayed the night out there. The next morning, Dipankar stayed back in Kokrajhar while the three of us left for Guwahati and eventually Shillong. So the very next day, everything was fine until the time this happened. So yeah, Roy's scooty was leaking out engine oil from somewhere, and since we didn't check that before, his engine got seized. We had to tow his vehicle on top of a tempo and get it back to Guwahati. I was so exhausted after that tiring day that I did not want to film anymore. Anyway, we came back to Shillong that night and reached safely and carried on with our lives from the very next day. So yeah, that was basically my story of how I experienced the Bhutan trip in 2017. And if you've come this far into the video, don't forget to hit the like button, click on subscribe and also share it with your friends. And also please mention in the comments if you like this kind of storytelling travel videos. It will really help me a lot. Until then, stay home, stay safe. Signing off. Peace. Hush.